Karen's face flushed with rage as the utility crew foreman confronted her. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. This is private property." But Karen refused to back down. She flashed a fake ID, demanding access, until the crew saw through her ruse. Now, Karen's carefully crafted scheme has unraveled spectacularly. What dark secrets is she trying to hide, and how far will she go to keep them buried? Karen's fingers trembled as she adjusted the reflective vest, staring at her reflection in the side mirror of the utility truck. The disguise was perfect: a hard hat, safety goggles, and boots to match the genuine crew members surrounding her. She took a deep breath, mentally rehearsing her cover story one last time. Clutching the fake work order, Karen strode with false confidence toward the gates of the gated community. The guard eyed her suspiciously, but Karen flashed the ID badge and rambled about an emergency line repair. With a nod, the guard opened the gates, and Karen slipped inside. Her heart raced as she navigated the winding streets, searching for the right address. There it was, the house, isolated at the end of a cul-de-sac. Karen parked the truck and grabbed her toolkit, praying her ruse would hold up under scrutiny. Approaching the front door, Karen knocked firmly. After a moment, it swung open to reveal a middle-aged woman, brow furrowed in confusion. "Can I help you?" "Ma'am, I'm with the utility company," Karen said, pitching her voice lower. "We've received a report of a gas leak in your neighborhood. I need to come inside and inspect your lines." The woman's eyes widened. "A gas leak. Oh my goodness, please come in." She ushered Karen through the doorway, rambling about recent neighborhood crime. Karen nodded along, heart pounding as she surveyed the interior. "Where's your utility room?" she asked, cutting off the woman's chatter. "It's just down the hall, to the left," the woman replied, gesturing. "Please, let me know if you need anything." "Of course." Karen flashed a tight smile, then hurried down the hallway, clutching her toolkit. She paused before the utility room door, listening for any sounds. Silence. Quickly, she slipped inside and shut the door behind her. Karen's eyes scanned the utility room, searching for anything that could help her reach her goal. Meters, pipes, electrical panels. Perfect. She knelt beside the circuit breaker, carefully removing the cover. Just as she began to tinker with the wiring, a noise from the hallway made her freeze. Footsteps, approaching fast. The door flew open, and Karen whirled around to see the woman standing there, face twisted in shock and anger. "What are you doing?" she demanded. Karen stammered, mind racing. "There's a serious issue with your electrical system. I need to shut off the power to investigate further." The woman's brow furrowed. "Shut off the power? But you said this was about a gas leak." Karen's mouth went dry. "Well, yes, the two issues are connected. Please, I need you to trust me. Your safety is at risk." The woman's eyes narrowed suspiciously. "I don't think so. I'm calling the police." Karen's heart pounded as the woman pulled out her phone. "Wait," she cried, lunging forward. "Please, you have to let me finish my work." The woman recoiled, holding the phone to her ear. "Get out of my house, you intruder." Karen's mind raced. She couldn't let the woman call the authorities, not when she was so close to her goal. Desperate, she seized the woman's arm, yanking the phone from her grasp. The woman let out a startled cry, struggling against Karen's grip. "I'm sorry," Karen whispered. Then, with a swift motion, she shoved the woman backward. The woman stumbled, losing her balance, and Karen watched in horror as she tumbled to the floor, her head slamming against the edge of the utility room counter. Silence fell as the woman lay motionless. Karen stared, frozen with shock. She'd never intended for things to escalate this far. Panic gripped her as she realized the gravity of what she'd done. Karen's hands trembled as she knelt beside the woman's still form. She pressed 2 fingers to the woman's neck, searching desperately for a pulse. After a moment, she felt the faint flutter of life. The woman was alive, but unconscious. Adrenaline coursing through her veins, Karen quickly scanned the utility room, spotting a coil of electrical cord. She snatched it up, tying the woman's hands behind her back with swift, practiced motions. Then, she gagged her with a rag, muffling any potential cries for help. Glancing around the room, Karen's eyes landed on a toolbox in the corner. She rummaged through it, pulling out a heavy wrench. Gripping it tightly, she strode back to the woman and knelt beside her once more, heart pounding. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, raising the wrench, "but I can't let you ruin everything." Just as she was about to bring the wrench down, a noise from the hallway made her freeze. Footsteps, approaching fast. Karen's head snapped up, and her eyes widened as she saw the utility crew foreman standing in the doorway, mouth agape. "Ma'am, what the hell are you doing?" Karen's grip on the wrench tightened, her knuckles turning white. This isn't what it looks like." The foreman's brow furrowed as he took in the bound and gagged woman on the floor. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to drop the weapon and step away from her." Karen's mind raced. She couldn't let him stop her. Not now, when she was so close. Raising the wrench, she charged toward the foreman, a primal scream tearing from her throat. The foreman reacted swiftly, his training kicking in. He sidestepped Karen's wild swing, grabbing her wrist and twisting the wrench from her grasp. Karen let out a cry of pain, her fingers going numb. "Ma'am, I don't know what's going on here, but you need to calm down," the foreman said sternly, his grip unrelenting. Karen's eyes darted around the room, searching for a way out. She couldn't let them stop her, not when she was so close to her goal. Desperate, she lashed out, kicking the foreman hard in the shin. The foreman grunted in pain, his grip momentarily loosening. Karen seized the opportunity, yanking her arm free and bolting toward the door. But the foreman was quick, lunging forward and tackling her to the ground. They wrestled on the floor, Karen's shrieks of terror echoing through the house. The foreman struggled to restrain her, shouting for his crew to call the police. Karen thrashed and clawed, her mind consumed by panic. She couldn't let them stop her, not when she was this close. Summoning every ounce of strength, she managed to break free and scramble to her feet. Without a second thought, she grabbed the wrench and swung it with all her might, slamming it into the foreman's head. He crumpled to the floor, unconscious. Karen stood there, chest heaving, her mind reeling. She'd gone too far, she knew that now. But she couldn't turn back. With a trembling hand, she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small black object. Karen's fingers tightened around the gun as she stared down at the unconscious foreman. Her heart raced, the adrenaline coursing through her veins. She couldn't let him stop her. Not now, when she was so close. Swallowing hard, she raised the gun, her finger hovering over the trigger. But before she could act, a voice from behind made her freeze. "Drop the gun, Mom." Karen whirled around to see two police officers standing in the doorway, their weapons drawn. Her mouth went dry, the gun trembling in her hand. I didn't mean to," she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. "Drop the gun, now." One of the officers barked, his tone leaving no room for argument. Karen's grip tightened, her mind racing. She couldn't let them stop her, not after everything she'd done. With a desperate cry, she swung the gun toward the officers, her fingers squeezing the trigger. Gunshots echoed through the house, the deafening sound making Karen's ears ring. She felt a searing pain in her shoulder, and the gun slipped from her grasp as she crumpled to the floor. The officers rushed forward, one of them kicking the gun away while the other cuffed Karen's wrists behind her back. She groaned in pain, her vision blurring as the world around her spun. "You have the right to remain silent," the officer said, his voice distant and muffled. "Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." Karen barely registered the words, her mind consumed by the realization of what she had done. She'd gone too far, and now she was paying the price. The hospital room was eerily quiet, save for the steady beep of the heart monitor and the occasional rustle of the sheets. Karen lay there, her shoulder wrapped in bandages, her wrists shackled to the bed frame. She stared up at the ceiling, her mind a whirlwind of emotions. Regret, fear, and a deep, gnawing sense of shame consumed her. How had it all gone so horribly wrong? The sound of a door opening drew her attention, and she turned her head to see a police officer standing in the doorway, his expression stern. "Mrs. Wilkins," he said, his voice low and measured. "I have some questions for you." Karen swallowed hard, her mouth suddenly dry. I don't know what to say." The officer pulled a chair up to the bedside, sitting down with a sigh. "Let's start with why you were impersonating a utility worker and breaking into this woman's home." Karen's gaze dropped to her bandaged shoulder, the memory of the gunshots still fresh in her mind. I was trying to find something important." The officer's brow furrowed. "Important enough to resort to violence and attempted murder." Karen's eyes filled with tears, the weight of her actions crashing down on her. "I didn't mean for it to go that far. I needed to find it, no matter what." The officer shook his head, his expression one of disappointment. "Mrs. Wilkins, you're looking at some very serious charges. Assault, attempted murder, breaking, and entering. And that's just the beginning." Karen's breath caught in her throat, the reality of her situation sinking in. "What's going to happen to me?" The officer leaned back in his chair, his gaze unwavering. "That's up to the courts to decide. But one thing's for certain. Your life as you know it is over." Karen closed her eyes, a single tear rolling down her cheek. She had lost everything: her freedom, her sense of self, and any chance at redemption. All because of a desperate, misguided attempt to reclaim what she had lost. The days that followed were a blur of interrogations, court appearances, and the endless paperwork that accompanied a case of this magnitude. Karen found herself surrounded by a team of lawyers, each one vying to craft the best possible defense for her increasingly dire situation. Throughout it all, Karen remained silent, her thoughts consumed by the weight of her actions. She had never intended for things to spiral so far out of control, but the consequences of her decisions were now inescapable. As the trial dragged on, the media attention surrounding the case grew intense. Karen's face was plastered across news outlets, her story sensationalized and dissected by pundits and commentators. The public was outraged, demanding justice for the innocent homeowner she had so callously attacked. In the end, the evidence against Karen was overwhelming. The jury found her guilty on all counts, and the judge handed down a harsh sentence: 10 years in a maximum security prison. As the bailiffs led her away in shackles, Karen felt a crushing sense of defeat, her dreams of redemption reduced to ashes. The years that followed were a grueling test of Karen's resolve. She endured the harsh realities of life behind bars, surrounded by hardened criminals, and a system that offered little in the way of rehabilitation. Each day was a struggle to maintain her sanity and hold onto the shreds of her dignity. But through it all, Karen remained haunted by the memories of that fateful day, the desperation that had driven her to such extremes, the violence that had consumed her, and the devastating consequences that had destroyed her life. As Karen's release date drew near, a familiar sense of trepidation began to set in. She had served her time, but the weight of her actions still hung heavy over her. How could she ever hope to rebuild her life, to find redemption, when the scars of her past were so deeply etched into her very being? The day of her release, Karen stepped out of the prison gates, blinking in the harsh sunlight. She had no family, no friends, and nowhere to call home. With a sigh, she began to walk, unsure of where her uncertain steps would lead her. As she wandered the streets, Karen couldn't help but notice the way people eyed her with suspicion and fear. She was a pariah, a cautionary tale of the lengths a desperate person might go to. The knowledge of her crimes had spread, and the community she had once been a part of now viewed her with nothing but disdain. Determined to prove herself, Karen began searching for work, only to be met with rejection after rejection. Her criminal record had become a scarlet letter, a burden she could never fully escape. Each closed door, each judgment-filled gaze, served as a painful reminder of the price she had paid for her actions. But just when Karen had begun to lose all hope, a chance encounter with a kind-hearted social worker opened a new door. This woman, seeing the genuine remorse and determination in Karen's eyes, offered her a chance. A job at a local nonprofit, working to help those in need. It was a long and arduous road, but slowly, Karen began to rebuild her life. Through her tireless efforts and unwavering commitment to redemption, she eventually regained the trust of her community. Though the scars of her past would never fully heal, Karen found a sense of purpose in helping others, determined to use her experiences to prevent similar tragedies from befalling those who found themselves at the edge of desperation. In the end, Karen's story stood as a testament to the power of resilience, the capacity for change, and the possibility of finding light even in the darkest of shadows. Her journey, though fraught with pain and anguish, had ultimately become a beacon of hope, a reminder that even the most shattered lives can be pieced back together, one step at a time.